Political Cognition and Admissible Variance, how collective thinking becomes political action. One, governance begins before the decision. Political decisions do not begin when governments vote. They do not begin when institutions publish a policy. They do not begin when a crisis is declared, a law is enacted, or an intervention is authorized. By the time the formal decision appears, much of the governing work has already taken place. A condition has been noticed, has been given meaning, has been classified as a particular kind of problem. Some harms have been ranked above others. Certain groups have been recognized. Others have remained invisible. Support has been mobilized. Authority has been justified. And one course of action has been made to appear necessary. Governance begins before institutions decide. It begins within political cognition. 2, what is political cognition? Political cognition is not simply political opinion. It is not party ideology. It is not only what politicians think. Political cognition is the collective interpretive practice through which society is determined. What matters? Who counts? What kind of problem exists? Which harms deserve priority? What authority may legitimately do? What must be preserved? What may be sacrificed? And when action becomes necessary. Political cognition occurs across governments, institutions, media systems, organizations, communities, professional fields, and public language. It is distributed. It operates through concepts, numbers, narratives, symbols, memories, fears, expectations, and institutional categories. It is one of the mechanisms through which political reality becomes governable. The hidden architecture before action. The Philosophical Intelligence Institute represents this process through an expanded political cognition sequence: signal, interpretation, ontology, ranking, support, legitimacy, admissibility, institutional translation, action, feedback, correction. Each stage performs a different governing function. A signal makes a condition perceptible. Interpretation assigns meaning. Ontology determines what kind of issue exists. Ranking determines which harms, values, rights, risks, and futures receive priority. Support determines how consent, trust, compliance, loyalty, fear, dependency, resignation, or resistance enter the political field. Legitimacy determines whether authority is justified. Admissibility tests whether the proposed action remains lawful, ethical, proportionate evidence, grounded institutionally, possible, and open to correction. Institutional translation converts political meaning into rules, budgets, categories, procedures, mandates, and technologies. Action then changes the world. Feedback reveals what happened. Correction determines whether the system can learn. The visible decision is only one stage within this larger architecture. For governance, failure can begin before implementation. Governance failure is often discussed as implementation failure. A policy was poorly delivered, an agency lacked capacity, a program exceeded its budget, a system failed to achieve its target, but failure may become structurally complete before implementation begins. The wrong signal may have been selected. The issue may have been misinterpreted. The problem may have been placed in the wrong ontology. The relevant harms may have been ranked incorrectly. Compliance may have been mistaken for
Consent, popularity may have been mistaken for legitimacy. Urgency may have bypassed admissibility. If the cognitive architecture is defective, efficient implementation does not correct the error. It implements the error more effectively. 5. The political activation threshold. Not every condition immediately becomes political. A person may experience hardship privately. A community may endure repeated service failure. A worker may observe a harmful incentive. A public institution may accumulate unresolved complaints. The condition becomes politically activated when it enters collective significance, authority, legitimacy, conflict, or binding action. P calls this the political activation threshold. A condition crosses this threshold when it can no longer be treated merely as a private event or technical defect. It becomes connected to questions such as, who is responsible? Who bears the cost? Whose rights are affected? What must government do? Which institution has failed? What must now change? Political systems frequently fail because they do not recognize that this threshold has been crossed. They continue treating a legitimacy conflict as a communications problem. They treat structural harm as a series of isolated cases. They treat identity injury as administrative inconvenience. They treat public distrust as resistance to information. The wrong intervention follows from the wrong recognition.
6, interpretation before judgment. Political judgment often arrives before political understanding. An event is immediately described as necessary, reckless, progressive, authoritarian, efficient, corrupt, responsible, or dangerous. But political events do not carry one self-evident meaning. The same situation may contain several valid dimensions. A public sector failure may be technical, it may also be ethical. It may involve institutional design. It may contain a legitimacy conflict. It may reveal an identity injury. It may expose a narrative failure. Peer, therefore, proposes interpretation before judgment. The political field must first be decoded. What has been selected? How has the issue been framed? What causes have been assigned? Which actors have been recognized? What future has been projected? What action is being made to appear unavoidable? Interpretation before judgment does not eliminate moral evaluation. It makes moral evaluation more reliable. 7, ontology determines intervention. Political systems cannot govern an issue until they decide what kind of issue it is. This is an ontological decision. A housing crisis may be classified as a construction problem, a land use problem, an affordability problem, a financial problem, a public rights problem, an infrastructure problem, or a legitimacy problem. Each ontology selects different evidence, different experts, different authorities, different measures of success, different interventions. This creates a critical principle. Ontology determines intervention. A legitimacy failure cannot be repaired solely through better messaging. An ethical violation cannot be made admissible merely because it produces economic benefit. An identity conflict cannot be resolved only through administrative efficiency. A structural problem cannot be corrected by treating each person as an isolated case. When the issue is misclassified, the system becomes highly efficient at governing the wrong problem. 8, ranking is political power. Political systems do not merely identify values. They rank them. They decide which harm is urgent, which risk is acceptable, which population receives protection, which future deserves investment, which cost may be delayed, which right may be limited, which loss is treated as tolerable.
PI calls this political significance allocation. Ranking is one of the least visible forms of political power. A government may acknowledge both economic growth and environmental protection. Its real values become visible when the two conflict. An organization may declare that it values both staff welfare and financial performance. Its operative ranking appears when protecting welfare threatens revenue. A system may identify the correct issue and still fail because it assigns the wrong relative weight to its parts. This is ranking Ishparson. What is visible may receive more attention than what is consequential. What can be measured may displace what is meaningful. Immediate costs may outrank irreversible future harm. Institutional reputation may outrank truth. The ranking structure governs the outcome. 9, support is not one thing. Political support is often treated as a simple condition. People support a policy or oppose it. They trust an institution or distrust it. But support has many forms. People may comply because they believe an action is legitimate. They may comply because they fear punishment. They may remain silent because they agree, or because they believe participation is pointless. They may display loyalty to an institution while opposing its leadership. They may accept a procedure while rejecting its outcome. They may continue cooperating only because they lack an alternative. PI calls this support morphology. Compliance is not consent. Silence is not trust. Participation is not legitimacy. Ceremony is not unlimited political authorization. A stable political order may be sustained by trust, or by dependency, or by fear, or by resignation.
Unless the form of support is understood, political stability can be badly misread. 10, support does not automatically create legitimacy. Authority support and legitimacy are related. They are not identical. Authority concerns the recognized capacity to decide and command. Support concerns whether people sustain, accept, tolerate, or cooperate with that authority. Legitimacy concerns whether the authority is justified. A popular action may still violate rights. A lawful action may still be ethically or procedurally defective. A technically successful intervention may still be politically illegitimate. An institution may possess public trust while operating beyond its mandate. A majority may support an action that imposes concentrated, irreversible harm upon a minority. Support contributes to legitimacy. It does not replace admissibility. Political action must still remain answerable to law, evidence, ethics, rights, proportionality, institutional capacity, and correction. 11, stability can conceal contradiction. Political systems often treat stability as evidence of success, but stability can have several forms. It may indicate legitimate order. It may reflect institutional competence. It may show that conflict has been resolved. But stability may also be produced through suppression, dependency, resignation, unequal power, or blocked feedback. A society can appear calm while contradiction accumulates beneath the surface. A workforce can remain compliant while commitment collapses. A community can stop complaining because it no longer expects correction. An institution can preserve procedural order while public legitimacy deteriorates. PI calls this interpreted stability. The important question is not simply, is the system stable? It is,
what kind of stability exists?
what is sustaining it?
What contradiction has been resolved?
And what contradiction has merely been contained?
12, how political systems constitute crisis.
A crisis is not only an event.
It is also a political constitution process.
An event becomes a crisis when it is named as exceptional.
Time is compressed.
Threat is amplified.
Ordinary priorities are reordered.
Authority expands.
Authority interpretations narrow.
action appears unavoidable.
This process may be necessary,
Real emergencies require rapid decision.
but crisis language can also reorganize admissibility before the evidence is complete.
Urgency can weaken procedure. Fear can intensify ranking. Temporary powers can become permanent. Political dissent can be reclassified as obstruction. The governance question is therefore not only whether the crisis is real, it is whether the political constitution of the crisis remains proportionate evidence, grounded, time-limited, and correctable. 13. Premature political closure. Political systems must eventually decide. They cannot preserve every possibility indefinitely. Closure is necessary. But closure becomes dangerous when a provisional interpretation is converted into binding reality before relevant uncertainty, alternatives, harms, and constraints have been examined.
PI calls this premature political closure.
A contested classification becomes an official category.
A temporary emergency becomes a permanent institution.
A political narrative becomes administrative fact.
A majority preference becomes unlimited authority.
A technical model becomes the definition of reality.
The problem is not decision.
The problem is decision without admissibility. 14. Provisional governance. Political systems must often act before certainty is available. The alternative to premature closure is not paralysis. It is provisional governance. A provisional decision is strong enough to guide action but remains constrained. Its assumptions are recorded. Its scope is defined. Its duration is limited. Its effects are monitored. Its reversal conditions are known. Its feedback channels remain open. Its authority can be reconsidered when the situation changes. Provisional governance allows institutions to act under uncertainty without falsely declaring uncertainty resolved. It preserves the capacity for correction. 15. The political cognition audit. To make political cognition governable, PI has developed the political cognition audit. The audit asks,
Was the signal field sufficiently broad?
were vernacular and lived signals interpreted rather than dismissed?
Were alternative interpretations examined?
Was the issue classified correctly? Were values, harms, rights, risks, and futures ranked transparently? Was support distinguished from fear, dependency, compliance, resignation, or coerced participation?
Was authority genuinely legitimate?
Did the proposed action pass an admissibility threshold? Could the institution perform the action responsibly? Were feedback channels protected?
Could the system correct itself?
The audit can be applied to public institutions, organizational reforms,
crisis, media controversies, artificial intelligence systems,
strategic interventions, regulation, security decisions, and major public projects. Its purpose is to reveal governance failure before interpretive assumptions become irreversible institutional force. 16. Introducing the new P publication. These ideas are developed in the new publication, Political Cognition and Admissible Governance. How collective thinking ranks, stabilizes, authorizes, and intensifies action. Across 5 parts and 20 chapters, the publication develops a comprehensive governance on connective for understanding how collective interpretation becomes political authority and institutional action. It examines political activation, interpretation before judgment, issue ontology, political significance allocation, ranking distortion, support morphology, legitimacy
interpreted stability, crisis constitution, premature political closure, provisional governance, discursive power intensification, media acceleration, cognitive political failure, and governance failure before implementation. The monograph also contains a core concept glossary and the complete political cognition audit. It is designed for readers working in governance, political theory, public policy, institutional analysis, organizational design, journalism, crisis governance, artificial intelligence governance, and institutional reform. 18. Govern the cognition that governs the action. Political systems do not govern only through laws, institutions, policies, and authority. They govern through the cognitive architecture that determines what institutions can see, how they interpret it, what kind of issue they believe exists, which harms they rank, whose support they recognize, what authority they consider legitimate, and when they decide that action has become necessary, where political cognition remains hidden, unexamined assumptions become institutional force, where political cognition becomes visible. The path from signal to action can be tested. Govern the political cognition that governs the action. Philosophical Intelligence Institute, frameworks turned complexity into admissible decisions.